For generations, certain rifle cartridges sat on the throne of American hunting. They were the heartbeat of deer camps, the thunder behind the recoil pads of our grandfathers' rifles. But then, the spotlight drifted. New rounds hit the shelves. Flashy ads promised flatter, faster, and modern. And just like that, the old legends, those cartridges that had earned their reputations the hard way, got shoved into the shadows. Gun racks stopped displaying them. Ammo shelves gathered dust. Hunters stopped talking about them as if they'd vanished into history. But here's the twist. No one saw coming. 2025 has brought a resurrection. Out in the whitetail woods, across the open plains, even on the African savannas, hunters are rediscovering that the so-called obsolete rounds never actually died. They were just waiting for shooters to remember what real balance feels like: accuracy that doesn't punish your shoulder, power that hits with authority, and reliability born from a century of field-proven results. Let's start with a legend that refuses to fade, the 7x57mm Mauser. This cartridge didn't just appear, it was forged in the fires of innovation back in 1892 by none other than Paul Mauser himself. The 7x57 wasn't just a good idea, it became one of the most influential rifle cartridges in human history. It changed everything. Why? Because it offered something revolutionary for its time. A flat trajectory, mild recoil, and terminal performance that absolutely crushed expectations. It wasn't just soldiers who trusted it. Hunters across continents carried it into the wild. Adopted by Spain in the 1890s, it fought through the Spanish-American War, the Boer War, and both world wars in limited use. It was among the first small-bore, high-velocity, smokeless powder cartridges, and it set the stage for giants that followed, like the 3006 Springfield. From a technical standpoint, the 7x57 was brilliantly balanced. It could push bullets between 140 and 175 grains with grace and control. Even with modern pressures, 51,000 psi under SAMI or 57,000 under the European standard, it remains a smooth operator. In the right bolt gun, especially modern Rugers, CZs, or Mausers, handloaders can safely tap deeper performance. On game, the 7x57 punches far above its weight. Deer, elk, moose, and even African plains animals fall quickly when hit with the right bullet. The recoil is soft, the accuracy surgical. It's a round that rewards precision and punishes arrogance. And for reloaders, it's paradise. That long neck is perfect for seating heavy bullets. Think 160 grain partitions or 175 grain soft points. Load it with IMR 4350, H4831, or RL19, and you'll unlock performance that rivals modern cartridges many hunters brag about today. Sure, there are drawbacks. Factory ammo in the United States is underloaded, limited by concern for old surplus rifles still floating around. You won't find it as easily as a 308 or 3006. But for those who handload, this cartridge delivers raw consistency and legendary accuracy. This is the round that WDM Karamojo Bell used to drop elephants with 175 grain solids. It's a round that earned respect through both blood and smoke. So, before you chase the latest hyped up Magnum, remember this. The 7x57 Mauser still holds its own more than a century later. It's not nostalgia. It's proof that perfection doesn't age. And if you think that's impressive, just wait until you hear about a quarter-bore classic that nearly became forgotten only to rise again from the wildcat shadows. Some cartridges don't just fade, they hide. They wait for hunters to remember what real shooting comfort feels like. That's exactly what happened with the 257 Roberts, better known to old school hunters as the Bob. Back in the 1920s, a wildcatter named Ned Roberts was obsessed with perfection. He wanted a round that could shoot flat like a varmint cartridge, but still drop a deer cleanly with one well-placed shot. He took the 7x57mm Mauser case, necked it down to hold a .25 caliber bullet and hand-tuned the design until it shot like magic. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't built for ego. It was built for precision. By 1934, Remington saw the brilliance and made it official. They gave it a touch more case capacity, boosted the performance a bit, and stamped it into history as the .257 Roberts. It became the gentleman's deer cartridge, flat shooting, accurate, and friendly on the shoulder. Let's talk numbers. Bullet diameter, 0.257 inch, or 6.5 to 3 millimeters. Case length, 2.233 inches. Pressure, 54,000 psi under SAMI standards. That's respectable power wrapped inside one of the most shootable hunting cartridges ever made. But here's what made the Bob legendary. Versatility. It could be loaded light with 75 grain bullets that scream downrange for prairie dogs and coyotes, or it could push 100 grain soft points for deer with laser-like accuracy. The recoil was gentle, more like a polite handshake than a slap. New shooters loved it. Veteran hunters trusted it. Those who reload still call it one of the best all-around handloaders cartridges ever made. Powders like IMR 4350, H4831, and RL19 pair beautifully with bullet weights from 75 to 100 grains. And then came the Plus P version, Remington's hot-rodded update that squeezed out even more velocity while staying safe in modern rifles. Suddenly, the Bob could nip at the heels of the .256 Remington, all while keeping that trademark mild recoil. Now, let's be real, it never became a blockbuster. The mass market ignored it in favor of rounds like the .243 Winchester or the .256 Remington. But serious hunters knew the secret. They knew the Bob was surgical in the field flat, accurate and deadly without punishing recoil. They didn't chase hype. They chased results. That's why, even today, custom rifle builders still chamber for it. The cartridge has a cult, following a quiet army of believers who know it's one of the best balanced quarter-bore rounds ever made. Sure, ammo and brass can be hard to find. Sure, it's not plastered across marketing posters. But those who know. The .257 Roberts sits right between extremes. It's softer than the .255-06, more versatile than the .243 Winchester, and every bit as lethal when that crosshair settles on a whitetail. There's a certain romance to it, a cartridge that feels almost like a secret handshake between generations of riflemen. You pick one up, and you're not just carrying a rifle. You're carrying a legacy that's been earning quiet respect for nearly 100 years. But nostalgia only gets you so far, because the next cartridge in this story isn't polite or refined. It's raw, thunderous, and unapologetically American. A round that hits like a sledgehammer and roars with black powder thunder even in the age of polymer-tipped perfection. We're talking about the 4570 Government, and if you think old means outdated, this next part is going to shake that belief right down to its brass casing. You can hear it before you ever feel it, the deep, thunderous boom that rattles the chest and rolls across the range like an approaching storm. That's the sound of the 4570 Government, a cartridge older than electric light, still demanding respect 150 years later. It was born in 1873, the same year the United States was still patching its wounds from the Civil War. The Army wanted a single hard-hitting service cartridge for its new Springfield trapdoor rifle. What they came up with changed American firearms forever. A 45 caliber 405 grain bullet powered by 70 grains of black powder. Thus, the 4570 Government 457405 in its original form was born. From the first day it saw action, it earned names like Big Medicine and The Thumper. It wasn't just a rifle round, it was a message. A heavy, unstoppable, bone-crushing message that said this will stop anything that walks. But what's incredible is how it never died. Today, in 2025, this cartridge is not only alive, it's thriving. Modern lever-action rifles from Marlin and Henry have turned the 4570 into a living legend for hunters, guides, and anyone who walks into bear country with confidence instead of fear. Let's talk numbers. Bullet diameter, 0.458 inch, or 11.6 to 3 millimeters. Case length, 2.105 inches. Overall length, 2.5 to 5. Bullet weights, anywhere from 250 to well over 500 grains. And when loaded to modern pressures, it becomes an absolute hammer. Inside 200 yards. There's nothing in North America this round can't take. Moose, elk, bear, bison. The 4570 has put them all on the ground. Loaded hot in modern rifles, think Marlin 1895 SBLs or Ruger No. 1s, it becomes a freight train in brass. In Alaska, it's earned its place as the go-to bear defense round for guides who can't afford second chances. The recoil is stout, make no mistake. This isn't the kind of rifle you hand to a beginner. Every shot feels like you just fired a piece of history, and your shoulder knows it. But the trade-off? Massive earth-shaking power and total confidence in close quarters? Now, it's not a precision long-range performer. Past 200 yards, the trajectory drops like a thrown hammer. It's not built for finesse, it's built for destruction. That heavy bullet bucks brush like it's not even there. It drives through hide, bone, and muscle with unstoppable momentum. Reloaders divide the 4570 into three categories. First, the old trapdoor loads gentle black powder replicas safe for antique Springfields. Second, the lever action loads perfect for modern Marlins and Henry rifles, giving that extra horsepower without breaking the gun. And third, the Ruger level loads the fire breathers designed for ultra-strong actions that can turn this classic into a true dangerous game cartridge. That flexibility is exactly why it's still around. Whether you're shooting cowboy action competitions or defending a fishing camp in bear country, the 4570 is the kind of round that doesn't ask for respect, it takes it. And the rifles chambered for it carry that same pride. The Marlin 1895 series, the Henry All-Weather, even the old Springfield Trapdoor, they all speak the same language. Old school American power. Here's a fun fact to chew on. This cartridge has survived 3 centuries, multiple wars, the rise and fall of countless calibers, and it's still in production. Hunters call it the Hammer of 4. And once you fire one, you'll understand why the nickname stuck. But while the 4570 roars with black powder bravado, another old-school round quietly stalks from the shadows, a forgotten long-range master built for open country precision and speed. A cartridge that once promised to rewrite the rules of Western hunting until the market buried it alive. It's time to dust off the legend of the 264 Winchester Magnum, a round that aimed to slay giants but ended up a ghost story whispered among riflemen. Every generation of shooters has that one round that was too far ahead of its time. The 264 Winchester Magnum was exactly that. When Winchester launched it in 1959, they claimed it was the future of Western hunting, flat shooting, high velocity, and devastating on big game. It had all the makings of a superstar. But fate had other plans. This cartridge came from royalty. Its parent case was the 375H, an H Magnum shortened, necked down, and refined through the 338 Winchester Magnum to handle 264-inch bullets. That meant speed, pure, sizzling, barrel-melting speed. Pushing a 140-grain bullet past 3,100 feet per second, it was practically lightning in brass. Out west, long-range hunters fell in love fast. Flat trajectory, insane accuracy, and enough punch to drop elk at half a mile. Winchester released it in the Model 70 Westerner, and for a moment, it seemed like nothing could stop it. But just 3 years later, in 1962, Remington dropped the hammer with the 7mm Remington Magnum, a round that could handle heavier bullets and offered more flexibility. And just like that, the 264 Win Mag was buried under the hype. Still, those who kept shooting it knew the truth. With the right load, it could push 120 to 160-grain bullets with blistering efficiency, muzzle energy stretched from 2,800 to 3,400 foot-pounds, and with a proper ballistic coefficient, this thing sliced through wind like a laser beam, out to 400 yards. Holdover was almost non-existent. 1,000 yards? Still deadly in the right hands. But power has a price. This round burned barrels fast, so hot and fast that throat erosion became its reputation killer. Old-timers called it the barrel eater. Efficiency-wise, it wasn't as forgiving as the newer 6.5s. And because it never caught on, ammo became scarce. Reloaders had to carry the torch, tuning loads for precision, balancing pressure, temperature, and barrel life like mad scientists in their garages. Yet in 2025, the legend has quietly started to rise again. As shooters rediscover the beauty of old-school ballistics, the .264 Win Mag is earning fresh respect. Handloaders love its raw horsepower. Hunters in wide-open country, the kind where your first shot might be at 600 yards, are realizing that modern 6.5s still can't match its raw speed. It's the forgotten Magnum that never lost its soul. And just when you think the story of old cartridges ends there, another survivor steps out from the timber, the .35 Remington. The working man's woods cartridge, born in 1906, built for the Remington Model 8 semi-auto, and later immortalized in the Marlin 336 lever gun. Out of Remington's early family of rimless cartridges, it's the last one still standing more than a century later. On paper, the .35 Rem looks humble ballistically, just above the .30-30 Winchester. But paper doesn't tell the whole story. This cartridge hits hard, heavier bullet, wider diameter, better energy transfer. Inside 200 yards, it's an absolute hammer. For deer, black bear, or wild hogs, it's about as perfect as woods ballistics get. That heavy 358-inch bullet slams through brush without deflecting, expanding violently on impact. It was built for close-range reality, not long-range fantasy. And when the thick woods close in, that's exactly what matters. Rifles like the Marlin 336C made the .35 Remington a folk hero. The Remington Model 8 and 81 carried it through history, while Henry now chambers it for modern lever guns with side gates. Even single-shot Thompson, divided by center contenders, have kept it alive in compact carbines and pistols. Sure, it's not perfect. Ammo can be hard to find, and the velocity just doesn't stretch far. Reloading options are narrower compared to modern .35 caliber cartridges. But that's not what this round is about. It's about trust, decades of trust. It's about the kind of cartridge that doesn't need to brag because the hunters who use it already know what it can do. The .35 Remington is one of the very few cartridges still being produced that predates World War I. Think about that, over 100 years old and still in the game. In an age obsessed with new calibers and polymer coatings, this old warhorse still drops deer where they stand, still rides in the scabbards of woodsmen who don't care what's trending online. It's not flashy. It's not built for 1,000-yard hero shots. But when the trees close in and the shot is close, fast, and real, the .35 Remington still delivers the kind of thump that ends the story right there. So, what do all these cartridges have in common? The 7x57 Mauser, the .257 Roberts, the .45-70 Government, the .264 Winchester Magnum, and the .35 Remington, they all prove one thing: greatness doesn't expire. These aren't just cartridges, they're time machines. Each one carries a century of grit, precision, and lessons written in gunpowder and recoil. In 2025, as shooters chase the next big thing, the old legends quietly keep doing what they've always done, putting meat in the freezer and stories in the history books. And maybe that's the real message here. You don't always need new to be better. Sometimes the best way forward is to look back and remember what already worked.